mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. In the black community, well, we're massively overrepresented in the mental health institutions, even more so than in the prisons. And again, these are questions we have to ask. Well, why?
But once you get a control and an understanding of who you are, no one can use you against you. No one can ever use your mental illness against you. You've already spoke about it, so what you got?
The biggest point in life to resolve mental health is like giving a fuck about a person.
Where did you get the courage? I got the courage for 2 words. I care.
It's Chill Will Radio, where connections will be made, advice will be given, jokes will be told, and things will get real. My name is Willis Cooks, and I'm your host. But understand this show is not meant to be used as a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Enjoy the show, y'all. Yo. What's the deal, man? What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another dope episode of Chill Will Radio, man. I hope everyone is doing good this lovely evening or afternoon. There has to be a word to define, like, it's not the afternoon, it's not the evening, but it's something, whatever it is. But welcome everyone and tuning in to Chill Will Radio, man. I hope everyone's doing well, and if you're listening and tuning in, good looking. If you're going to be listening to this tomorrow, later on tonight, next day, next year, whenever you get the chance, go look into YouTube, man. And as always, man, even for those individuals who don't really think mental health is all too, important at this point in your life, man, good look into YouTube, man, because you probably haven't caught on yet, but at some point in your life, when life decides to knock you out, you will catch on eventually. So what's going on with me? How am I doing and everything like that? For the past few weeks, I've been talking a lot about this whole feeling of being overwhelmed. I don't like to admit when I'm stressed. I hate using that word, but like just being like stretched too thin in many different areas. And right now I'm at a place to where things are starting to calm down, only because I've X'd out and gotten rid of certain areas. But now that you start to get rid of certain things, it's like, okay, now you have no excuse to focus on the things that you need to focus on, right? So now that, even though I don't have any time, I have a little bit more free time, now I have to fully give my energy into the things that I want to do, right? The transitioning or placing your energy into somewhere else. Because when you're stretched too thin like I was, you're putting forth 10% of the energy here and 10% of the energy there and 20% of the energy there. And now that I'm at a place to where I can put all of this energy into one thing, I'm starting to catch myself be a little, I don't want to say timid, but little procrastinating, little lackadaisical, little like chilling a little too much, because it's like now you have a little bit more time, and that's kind of dangerous because it could start a trend of creating negative habits, right? Negative habits of not going to the gym, not doing certain things, not going to the coffee shop and getting things done when you're supposed to, not meeting certain personal deadlines. And transferring the energy from one thing to another thing is, I'm starting to realize it's much more harder than what it is, because you have to shift your focus. And shifting your focus could sometimes, for me in particular, shifting the focus can sometimes cause me to get a little disconnected with my reasons as to why I'm doing stuff. Because once my focus isn't set, I start to have all of these, random ideas popping up. Oh, I got a little more free time, I can do this. Oh, I got a little bit more free time, I can do this. It's like if you randomly find out you got $20 in your bank account, you start to figuring out which way you can spend it, instead of just putting it up like you've been saying you're supposed to do, right? So now that I have a little bit more free time, I've been trying different things, looking in other areas, when in reality it's like, Willis, you're supposed to be focusing on this, right? And I'm at the process to where I'm just kind of dialing in on my ability to focus, and my dialing in on my discipline when it comes to certain things that I know I'm supposed to be doing. Because if I don't dial in on that, what was the purpose of cutting certain things off, right? So getting into a place to where I can fully be aware of the energy that I'm putting into it, and not sacrificing certain things just because it's like I'm being distracted by like reckless shit on Instagram and things like that, you know. But outside of that, things has been cool. Work has been good. Work is work, you know. Work is work, and I always speak about, you know, how therapy is therapy and mental health is therapy, but nobody checks on the mental health of a social worker or, you know, anybody else within, you know, this helping profession, right? Because I speak about this a lot on this show in terms of like, yo, I seen somebody die today, or I seen somebody die last week, you know, because we work in these fields. And every now and then, a lot of people, and me and my guest was speaking about this earlier in terms of, you know, a lot of people think therapists have it, I guess, made in terms of like, we're good and everything is fine. And it's like, nah, homie. Like, if you got a good therapist who was able to relate, who was able to really finish a lot of your sentences and able to understand you a little bit better, it's because they got some shit in their closet. It's because they got some shit, you know, behind the veil. Right? And I always say this, it's hard for a therapist to take therapist advice because we know what that device is supposed to get, but we also know what that therapist is trying to do, right? Like, I've been to therapy before, and like, I didn't like it because it's like, yo, I know the little trick you did right there, like, I know what you just did, and I don't like it, but it is what it is, you know. So it's putting us in a position to where it's like, okay, we have to have faith in ourselves, and we have to be even more mindful of taking care of ourselves, right? If you're within a helping profession, taking care of yourself should always be number one, because obviously if you can't take care of yourself, you're never going to be able to take care of anyone else. So, but this week, it's been good. Like I said, just been focusing on this whole aspect of not overwhelming myself, and it's moving slow, but it's moving steady. You know, it's going at a steady pace, and I would rather something to move steady than for something to just not be moving at all. All right, so moving on forward into the self-care piece, and one of the things that I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen, and I'm very big on doing something that's therapeutic versus doing therapy, because everybody isn't ready for therapy, and do the type of therapy that fits you, right? Because the regular one-on-one sit-down therapy may not fit everyone. Some people may like group therapy. Some people may like individual. Some people, you know, may like other things, right? So one of the things I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen is to implement some form of holistic healing, right? On a monthly basis, weekly basis, daily basis if you got the money, because the shit can get expensive sometimes, but implement it somehow, some way, right? Weekly or monthly, like I said, if you got the money, do it daily, but it costs. But whether it be yoga, whether it be acupuncture, whether it be sound therapy, whether it be flow therapy, whether it be Reiki, whatever it is. And the only reason why I believe it's important to implement that form of therapy within your life or within your self-care piece at some point is because we have to shake things up, right? We not only have to shake up our schedule and shake up the things that we're doing, but we also have to shake up the way in which we're healing, right? Because if we get used to just this one healing thing, our body is going to, and our mindset is going to understand, like, this is how far I can get, and we're going to hit that plateau, right? So in order to switch it up, or to shake things up, or in order to, you know, kickstart you into a different direction or a better direction so you won't get bored, do something differently. Because every form of healing doesn't work for everything. Just like every coping skill doesn't work for everything. We are not individuals that can be placed within this box and this cookie cutter, you know, type of formula. If you have anxiety, you have a certain type of coping skill that has to work with that anxiety. If you have social anxiety, you know, you have a certain type of coping skill that has to work with that social anxiety. If you have anxiety and depression, you're not going to be able to have the same coping skill to work for both. You're going to have something different, right? Like me, I would like to view myself as an introvert. So in order for me to remain at peace, I have to give myself a lot of quiet time. I have to sit in my car a lot. I have to just be silent a lot of the times. A lot of the times when I'm in my car driving, I listen to nothing but the road because it puts me at peace. But at the same token, you know, even though sitting in silence is self-care for me, I say this a lot, but skydiving is also self-care for me because it helps me out with being peace. It clears my chaotic mind, right? Because when I'm silent, I'm listening to my mind. But if I want to get rid of those thoughts, I go jump out of a plane. It's weird and it's dangerous, but it works for you, right? And that's what's most important, right? What works for you? A lot of people have these weird little coping skill things, and some people may just like sit down and watch anime all day. I'm that type of person. I just watch anime and animal shows. Like, that's about it. But it works, right? Have confidence in the way in which you're coping. Have confidence in the way in which you're healing. So that's why doing some form of holistic healing is going to shake things up, because it's going to be different. Find what works for you, whether it's yoga or whether it be hot yoga, whether it's sound therapy, whether it's float therapy, whether it's Reiki, what works for you, right? And if none of it work for you, that's cool too. Shit, it don't matter as long as you find what works for you, right? Because I don't have all the answers, but at the same token, you have to be open to whatever advice people are giving to you. All right. So the one thing I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen is to implement some form of holistic healing, whether it's Reiki or yoga or acupuncture or massage therapy or sound therapy, whatever it is. Put it into your way. Put it into your healing basket, your self-care regimen at some point, so you don't become bored with your current self-care regimens, because we all hit a plateau when it comes to healing. All right, so moving on forward into the main topic, right? I got my guy Alex. What's the deal, player?
What up?
Man, thank you for coming through, my man.
It's a pleasure. Glad I could get the invite.
How you feeling, man?
Man, I'm tired.
You tired?
It's been a long week.
Yeah.
Had a great weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Now I know I'm just gonna have to get back into the flow of like, just gotta go to work tomorrow.
Bro, you hate Mondays?
No, I don't hate Mondays.
Okay.
I see Monday as an opportunity to do something great. I just don't like the pump up to it. Like, once I'm there. I love it. But nah. Seeing the sunset on a Sunday is kind of sad. But nah, I'll be good tomorrow morning.
It's like the calm before the storm. It's just like, I had fun, but it's like this shit is coming to an end.
Exactly.
Back to reality, you know. But you tired, but outside of that, is everything else is good?
Yeah. I mean, you just kind of spoke to my life on like the transition of energy into a different thing. Because now I'm reevaluating, like, I should have been running some more. I should have done a whole bunch more activities that I haven't, and I said I would. But I just really need to put that effort and train my mind to get back in there. Yeah. Just get into the habit of doing everything.
That's the hardest thing in the world. Like, creating a new habit and falling off of a habit is easy as hell. Like, like a few months ago, like, I went to the gym like 90 days straight.
Okay.
Like, I would go to the gym after here. I would go to the gym like before. Like, I would go to the gym like 1 o'clock in the morning just so I can be able to make it and create that habit. And it's good. Like, probably like the 30th day in, it was like simple.
Yeah.
But after that 90 days, I ain't go to the gym for like 2 months. Bro.
I believe it.
It is just like, it put into perspective how easy it is to break a habit, and how easy it is for negative habits to form, and how hard it is for positive habits to form as well.
Exactly.
We always got to stay on top of it, but falling off is like easy as hell.
Yeah, because you mess around and you get sick, and that week that you out, you're not going to the gym.
Yeah.
Done.
Done. So creating new things is I don't know. The one thing that worked for me when it came to that is I put constant reminders around myself, and I put myself in a position to where I will feel bad if I didn't go. So like I rode with my gym bag in my passenger seat. This shit was always in my passenger seat. So like I'm looking at it every time I'm in the car. So it's like, I have to go, and if I don't go, I feel bad. And you know, I spoke about this before on the show. Mm-hmm. This is, I guess, kind of a self-care for me, but like, you know, I talk shit to myself. If I don't do things, it's like, Willis, you a bitch for that. Or like, let's say with the skydiving thing, for example, right? If I don't jump out the plane, the one thing I tell myself is like, if you a bitch, like, why ain't you doing this? Like, you tripping. And like on one end, it's like Didier would always tell me like, Willis, don't you think that's kind of harsh? And don't you think that's kind of mean? But it's the way I communicate.
Okay.
It's the only way my brain is able to understand it. I can't be like, Willis, go ahead and try your best.
Well, hold on. Let me challenge that.
Go ahead.
Is that the only way it's gonna work, or have you not have enough of the other way to make it work?
That's what makes me comfortable.
Okay.
So when someone comes to me and be like, Willis, you can do your best and try harder, blah, blah, I literally start to be weird-eyed. Like, what the fuck is you talking about? Get away from me. But when myself or someone tells me, like, yo, man, you's a bitch. Like, you're not supposed to be doing this shit. You're supposed to whoa. If someone comes to me and talks to me that way, that speaks to me because that's my communication style when it comes to, like, motivation and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Because I was raised in a place to where it's just like, get the shit done or you shut up.
Okay.
And if you don't get it, if it's something that you want to do and you're not doing it, why aren't you doing it? If you don't have a good enough reason, like, you's a bitch. And it's like, that's always been processing in my mind my whole entire life. So in order for me, like, I know I ain't no bitch. So in order for me to prove to myself that I'm not a bitch, I have to do something that would cause me to say I'm a bitch if I don't do it.
But that's contradicting though.
Okay.
Because you're not a bitch.
Exactly.
So nothing should ever make you think that you are.
But we're all hypocrites.
Right? But I mean, again, and it goes back to my question. Have you not had enough of the positive to make you feel comfortable enough to roll with that?
It could, the enough side, that could probably what it be. Like, I haven't had enough to make me feel comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. It also could be I'm not even willing to give it a chance. And I would say it would be more of I'm not even willing to give it a chance because I start to feel anxious about it and I start to look at you like weird. So it's just like, yo, stop. It's just stop. Let me be like the unbitched person that I am. Like, it's a communication style, and like, and I'm sure you understand this, but we have to figure out how to communicate with our patients and our clients. Yeah, because I can't be super nice to a client that was raised in the PJs or in the JDs or the Nickersons, and they going through things and seeing stuff. I can't be like, hello, sir, how are you doing? Let's, we got to speak to them within a language that they understand.
I hear you. I mean, it be like that sometimes. Yeah. You got to do that. Yeah. But in thinking about changing the community, how do we inject some of that positive into some of that straight talk?
Well, let me challenge you with this.
Okay.
Why isn't it positive? Like, and what defines something to be positive or not be positive?
Well, okay. Going back to your example.
Yeah.
I can't call my client a bitch.
Obviously.
Right. But how can I be straight, have that conversation of, well, why didn't you get it done? But in that, not to belittle a person, but to build them up. Mm-hmm. Like, Willis, why didn't you get this done? You're great at this. It should come easy to you. Mm-hmm. Like, what's your excuse for not doing it, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to speak to the strengths and knock it out. Yeah. Sort of thing. So it's a fine line.
It is.
And I think really just figuring out, just us as a people, how do we conduct therapy? What's okay with our culture and our communities to get it all done. But I hear you.
And that goes back into figuring out what's the communication style of that client or that person or your particular communication style. So like, me not calling myself a bitch, that's positive. It may have a negative connotation to some because the essence around the word bitch is negative. Mm-hmm. But how are you using that word creates the positivity out of it. Mm-hmm. And we've both come across clients who speak a language is that, and they may tell themselves like, man, I'm being a little bitch or this and that, and oh man, I'm acting like a bitch, or I'm acting like a punk, or I'm doing this. And it's like we have to joke around with them and sometimes be like, well, maybe you might be acting like a little punk doing this. but this is a way it should go.
Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of like, okay, the negative may appear negative, but it may be overshadowed. Well, let me say this. It's positive, it's just overshadowed by a negative essence. So people view it as that without digging a little deeper.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So for me, it's just like, you a bitch or you not? What you gonna do?
I think it'd be real interesting, like, because, you know, in grad school, you take these, like, cultural competency classes.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do you talk to the person that grew up in the J's, right? You know, how do you have some of these role play conversations? Everything is so sanitized and by the book, and then by the time you actually start seeing your client, you kind of just jumping in the deep end trying to figure this stuff out. So,
like, Susie from Palos Verdes is not finna like do well with Brandon from the Knicks and Gardens.
Nah. Crazy. Dang, I don't even know if I want to say this, but I was recently around somebody who grew up on the East Coast in a very white area, proclaimed that she was a WASP. And I haven't heard a WASP, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Wow.
Right.
I never heard it, you know, as that, but okay.
Right. And so, you know, she comes over to the West Coast, goes to like an all-white university for undergrad, another all-white university for grad school, and then just decides like, hey, I want to go work in the hood, right? I want to go work with this community that I really don't have any contact with. Yeah. And I'm going to be the person that's going to help them out. And it's like, come on, man, this ain't going to work out how you think it is. It could, but the fact that you came in, you called yourself a WASP, kind of takes some of that away from you, right?
It's a lot of entitlement behind that.
Yeah, it's a lot. You know, you think you're just gonna be Mother Teresa in the hood. It don't work like that.
She's gonna get a rude awakening, and you know, and she may have like one or two clients who may like her, but like she'll get a rude awakening. But like I said, it's a lot of entitlement behind it. But moving on forward into the main topic and the thing that we're discussing today, right? Yeah. We're speaking about parenting, right? And let me make this disclaimer before we fully start, right? Just as, you know, sometimes a barber may not know how to cut their head, but they are masters when it comes to masters at cutting other folks' heads. I don't have no kids. Do you have any kids, Alex?
I don't.
We don't, right? However, we consistently work with individuals who have kids and our parents and things of those sorts. So we're going to be speaking from that lens, right? Yeah. From the experiences that we gain, from the stories and the things that we hear from our clients and our patients, you know. And we're speaking about parenting, their behavior, how it affects their children, you know, certain things that may need to be changed and things of those sorts, because when it comes to my interaction or my involvement with parents, I'm mostly hearing it from the child side of it, right? I'm mostly hearing it from, and this is particularly coming from the psych hospital, I'm mostly hearing it from like, my mother doesn't understand, or my mother or my pops was doing X, Y, Z, so I'm here because of that. And it's important for me to always tell that individual that, like, you know, you're not the problem, or you're not the issue. This is just the way you're coping this is the way you're coping within the environment that you're living in.
Yeah.
You know, because the environment will switch, you probably wouldn't be in this hospital right now.
Exactly.
You know, but a lot of the times I speak to parents who are like, my kids are fucking crazy, and my kids are this, and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I have to be like, okay, maybe it's the behavior. Maybe it's the parenting skills. Maybe it's not necessarily a kid, but maybe just your parenting skills need to be tweaked a little bit.
Right.
You know, and what I've noticed is parents sometimes overlook the influence that they have on their children. They overlook the influence they have on the household and the environment that they're curating, and how the child that they have, how they are shaping and molding them when they become older. And, you know, when I speak to parents, you know, who are older and their kids are in their 20s and 30s, they always wonder, like, hey, my relationship with my kid is in this grade, or he just like shoves me off to the side, or it's not as good as I would hope it to be, you know. And then we have the little assessment. We speak about, you know, how they raise their child. Oh, it's no wonder why the child is doing this. And it's like, it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's a pill that definitely needs to be swallowed. You know?
No, it's a tough one. And again, I'll say for any parent listening, I love parents. Parents are fantastic. I hope to be one day. But I think, like you said, a lot of parents underplay their role. Like, parents are ridiculously important, right?
Yeah.
And when I always talk to parents about parenting, I say we're going to run this as if your house was a company. You are the boss, right? Everything is coming primarily top down, and your child's the employee. How do we build the best structure for this employee to thrive?
Yeah.
And that kind of helps them connect with a lot of the different things. The crazy part is, I think from a lot of parents that I'm talking to, they're kind of overcorrecting on what their parents passed down on them.
Yeah.
And so what I see is that, you know, some of the parents are like, oh, you know, when I grew up, my mom and dad were super strict, you know, looked after everything I did. And now they have their own kids and they're super lenient. And it's like, oh, gee, that's not how it's going to work.
Too far off.
Yeah, right? And now the goal is to bring them back more center. You know, how can we provide adequate supervision while allowing that child to, you know, have some freedom and learn to develop their own thoughts and everything.
And that's a scary thing because, you know, I know, and like that's 100% correct, right? We try to get so far away from the way our parents raised us that we become the complete opposite of it, and it can go left, it can get bad. But the more we try to kind of get to that middle ground, it's like that parent starts to get afraid, or that parent starts to get anxious because it's like, I'm becoming too much like my dad, or I'm becoming too much like my mom's. And it's like, I need to fight so hard to get out of this. And that speaks to like the work that the parent has to do, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that I would like a lot of parents to do is to kind of forgive their parents.
Yeah.
Right? Their parents did the best that they could with what they knew and what they had. There's some guides ish that somebody developed to kind of help.
There's always a guide, like,
but there's no
template.
set rule book that you get when you have a kid. Like, the hospital just isn't they're not passing these things out, right? And so a lot of parents are just out there kind of fending for themselves, you know, based off the knowledge that, you know, what they saw, what they grew up with, who they're currently friends with, and all that other stuff. And it's like, we're going too far in the wrong way a lot of the times. That's why I like to do like different rating scales, surveys and stuff with my parents, just so that they could see where they're at with their parenting and how their child's behavior is causing like some depression, anxiety, or just general frustration.
So do you get more parents who are fighting against the results of it, or more who's like, okay, I could work on this?
A lot of my parents had suspicions.
Okay.
Right? They're already coming in. Like, parents will come in and say, oh, I'm depressed. But they're not necessarily linking it to the child's behavior or how they're running their own home, right? You know, they're linking it to outside factors that they really don't have control over.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, if you fix this, a lot of that stress will go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some parents, you know, it's a great confirmation for them. And off of that, they'll go and seek their own services, which is really cool. So it's just healing all around.
Yeah. And a lot of the times it's, like I said, I see a lot of the fight. I don't see too much of the parents accepting and being accountable that their behavior is causing this kind of wave of BS that's going on in the household. So I see a lot of the fight. And a lot of my experience in working with parents, it's just like, oh, you ain't got no kids, how can you tell me, and you don't understand, and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And it's kind of like me just trying to help the parent understand that, like you said, this is the company. Let's create the environment within this company because we don't want it to be negative, because now we got people trying to operate in a toxic environment, which is never going to be productive.
Exactly. If this is your working environment, you would have quit
Real quick.
or you would have got fired.
Real
right?
quick. So let's not be so quick to blame the child for, going that route. But going back into the parents and their relationship with their parents, going back into the parents and their relationship with their parents, is it, how accepting, within your experience, how accepting have parents been towards going to clean up some of their relationships with their parents in order to assist with where they are now?
It's real difficult. What a lot of people don't think about are like the changing dynamics, and just being an adult and being going from a child to an adult to a parent and then like a grandparent or something.
Yeah.
And, our minds just aren't shifting. So you'll always look at, I'm, so-and-so's son.
Yeah.
But I'm also so-and-so's son that's an adult.
Yeah.
It's paying their own bills, doing adult things, right? And we're not having like those follow-up conversations about how these dynamics are changing. Mm-hmm. So the crazy part is I have a lot of parents with, they'll have their parents work with the kid, and that grandparent is like sabotaging a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Grandpa and grandma can never do any wrong.
No.
And it's like, okay, well, I hear you have these concerns. How are you going to address these new parenting strategies with grandma?
Yeah.
They go home. Grandma takes care of them most of the time. Grandma's the real primary caregiver in a lot of this.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents are afraid to have these conversations. Mm-hmm. How do you put your foot down with your parent at this point? Mm-hmm. And that's where I see a lot of the fight at.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think of the conversation I had with a coworker, like literally on Thursday, in terms of how she got into an argument with her mother because her mother was trying to tell her how to be a parent, and it's just like, nah, remember, when I was a kid, blah 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 blah, and XYZ and this and that, and the communication between the two, and like you said, the difference in levels and seasons in which a person is, from child to adult to parent to things of those sorts. These are boundaries that I guess we tend to kind of overlook, and we don't understand how important it is. Mm-hmm. And also how we do not allow the other person to change, or even you within yourself, you don't see yourself as the adult or as the adult who has the ability to speak up for yourself a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Because it's and that even goes into like big brother or little brother. Mm-hmm. Like, even though the big brother may be older, you as the little brother are doing a little bit more well off.
Yeah.
However, you still are going to allow a big brother to kind of tamper with your stuff just because he's the big brother.
Yeah. And it's like, at some point, we got to break out of that.
Yeah.
I can have respect and still have my own point of view, and you can still respect me for that.
But in what ways and how do you do that?
It's going to be different from family to family.
Yeah.
And it's going to depend on who's engaged in the process, right? For myself, I've never had that relationship with my mom where it just is what it is, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Even if I got in trouble.
Yeah.
Even if my friends looked at me like, did you just say that to your mom?
Yeah.
I'm an adult. Like, I'm not going to be blatantly disrespectful.
Yeah.
But I need you just to respect where I am in this whole thing. And we've come to terms with it. We'll have some smooth conversations sometimes. Politics come on. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's no holds barred. Right? We're going a whole different direction. But I think as long as everybody comes in open to having these conversations, then it works. If somebody's just gonna stonewall the conversation, you're just done.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna change at all. But I think a lot of the times we just need to accept that the dynamics are gonna change.
And that's the biggest fight. And that's the biggest thing right there. It's just like, I can't let go of my power as the matriarch or patriarch. I can't let go of my power as the head of the household.
Yeah.
And it's a whole lot of ego.
Yeah. That's
within it. It's just like, now your little girl, your baby girl has to take care of you as not as the adult. Allow her to be that person.
Yeah.
But it's...
You twice a child, once an adult. And like I see it a lot, like when my grandmother and grandfather were transitioning out. You know, they were getting older. They couldn't do a lot of things by themselves, and you know, my mom and my aunts would try to come in, you know, cook, bathe, take them to different appointments, and they would just fight. Like, oh, I could do it on my own. Like, you can't. Like, it's cool. Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother conversation you got to have about like transitioning, death and dying and all that stuff. But, you know, letting some of that ego go to let you know, like, you know, you're not number one no more.
Yeah, and you have to give that person the ability to realize it on their own, right? A lot of the grandparents have to allow their daughters to see, like, okay, they are a parent, but they still need assistance instead of just trying to take over and just do that stuff. Like, a lot of us just need to be able to, I guess, mess up in certain areas, and we need to be put in a position where we need to ask for help so we can understand, like, okay, I may not know it all, you know, but it always gets to a point to where it's just like, nope, I got it, I'm good.
Nah, we don't live in bubbles. You know, I mean, nobody ever does stuff by themselves. You know, you hear these millionaires like, I did this, I did that. Like, you had a team, you had a squad. It's just, you can't win a basketball game by yourself, you know. So it's always good to ask for help.
Now, that's the parent and the grandparent, but what about the parent and the child? Because, like I stated earlier, a lot of the children that I work with, they always say that my mother or my father doesn't understand me. They're doing too much. They're not listening to me. They're controlling. And there are certain children in which, like, I have to flat out agree with. Like, there are certain children I'll be like, okay, I see it or whatever. All right, well. And then I call their parent to do, you know, a little family session. And now in my head, I'm like, I see why you this way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
What could a parent do in order to kind of, I don't want to say get to the level, but get to even ground between the parent and the child?
I think a lot of parents, from what I've seen, are just trying to, you know, force down their expectations of the child. Like, let the child explore and be who they want to be. It's just that simple, right? Actually take time to hang out with the kid. Like, I talk to parents about that all the time. Like, they kind of just like let the kids do their own thing. Yeah. Like, as long as they out of my hair, it's cool. Yeah. But they have no interest, right? You know, you can't tell me, you know, who their friends are, what games they like, how to even work it, like all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And really just get to know them as a person. And that'll be the biggest thing that'll happen.
But from what I'm hearing you say is take time to, like you said, hang out with your child. Take time to just, you know, be your child's friend in order to figure out who they are and figure out certain things.
To a point.
Okay.
To a point. I mean, we don't necessarily want it to be a friendship thing.
Okay, good.
Right?
That's where I was getting at.
Nah. I think that kind of goes too far, and a lot of parents become permissive in that area. What we want to do is just to let your child know that there's an open door. Like, if they want to talk, they can. And they won't just be shut out. You know, I was doing a talk about just like different mental health concerns and disorders. And it talked about, like, here are the signs of depression, right? What does it look like in the actual household? And then just as a parent, what can you do, sort of thing. Yeah. And a lot of it was just like, sit down and shut up. Right? It's a scary situation. True. Right? It's a scary situation. So don't inject your own stuff on there. Yeah. Let that child take control of whatever the situation is and just let it go. Yeah. But I think that's the biggest thing. You know, the child, imagine you were Willow or Jaden Smith. You were a black kid with no worries. Mm-hmm. Can you even fathom what that life looks like?
I can't. I can't. I feel like I feel like I probably would have been in jail a few times.
Right? But I mean, and I don't know everything that happens in the Smith household, right? Yeah. But to grow up, to not have those cares, those worries, to have a parent that will go on stage with you on a concert and perform music and stuff like that, like actually engaging. Your father, who had a huge sitcom, is your opener. Right? And a lot of parents won't allow that to happen.
Nah, because obviously the ego, and I'm the parent, I'm the top of the household. But Another thing I hear in it is just being able to fully trust your child. Fully able to trust your child, because like going back to the Willow and Jaden thing, it's like, yeah, they were free, but I guarantee you there was structure within that freeness. Like I guarantee, Jada and Will was like, yo, y'all can do this and this and this, but certain lines that you can and can't cross.
Right. And so that's the other thing, is creating that safe environment for your child, right? Yeah. Don't get mad at Jimmy for picking up the scissors if you left the scissors on the counter.
Exactly.
You can't do that, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we create that safe environment so that they have clear defined boundaries on what they can and can't do, right? Clear defined consequences, right? All that stuff, a lot of parents just miss out on it, right? You leave a child there unattended for 2 hours, they gonna get into something.
Yeah.
Right? You need to provide structured activities for them. Otherwise, this ain't gonna work.
So what do you do when you give the choice to the child and they go all the way overboard? Like within a lot of the communities in which we work in, our parents refuse to give that much freedom to the child because they finna do a bunch of reckless stuff in the school or in the streets or whatever that could possibly get them killed.
I mean, that's kind of tricky. Because, I mean, you get the freedom, but how often are you checking in for stuff?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if I leave a kid alone, I'm coming in every 10 minutes. Oh, Jimmy, you playing nicely. That's a good picture that you're drawing. Oh, I like that Lego structure that you built. Cool. That builds up that positivity within the child.
But then the kid going to be like, yo, you bugging. Like, leave me alone. Like, why you always in here? Ooh.
Right. And, I mean, as time gets older, the client gets older, you can cut back down on that, right?
Yeah.
Give them that freedom, right? I was more so talking like a 5-6-year-old. Cool. Once they're like a teenager, just like, hey, man, I check in like maybe hour every couple hours, right? And give it that way. But, I mean, also having that line of communication. I'm not going to let my kid just be out for how many hours?
Oh, yeah.
Unattended. No communication.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen parents, they don't know when their child is coming back. They're gone for days. It's like, how do you sleep at night with some of that stuff?
It's because they lost the control, but also the child has become the adult within a household, right? I can do whatever to my mom just gonna have to deal with it, right? And that's scary because it's like I see in like. I hate to put it like this, but this is kind of the truth and it's just reality. But like, I see a lot of these white kids cursing out their parents. I see a lot of these white kids cursing out their parents, and even the black children or the Hispanic children look at that kid like, yo, you crazy. Like, I curse out my mom, I'm dead.
Why? But why do they think that they're crazy? Because they knew it was a consequence for doing that. Some form of
consequence, yeah.
Right? So again, that goes back to you've gone too far to the left, right? You got to bring it back in. The issue is that sometimes when you get that far, you can only bring it back in so far.
Yeah.
Right? A kid is gone for multiple days.
Don't expect them to be in a house.
Don't, right? But what I would expect is regular communication. I would expect you to get your duties done that needs to be done, go to school and all that sorts of stuff. And that kind of is where we left it off with one of these clients. It was, he's out here in the streets with his friends doing things. But hey, he's going to school. He's getting his work done. He was at a continuation school. So he was doing everything that he needed to do. And it's like, Mom, are you okay with this? He would call in or check in. He would at least pick up your phone call. I mean, because you paid the bill. You should pick up the call.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But, like, that's as far as we're going to get, right? Ship is sailed for him being at home by 8. It's done. So, I mean, on a white kid's part, I mean, I think.
But it kind of goes back into what you said. We too far in a different and too far left. Yeah. Like when we allow white children, okay, when we allow the white children to just like curse our moms or throw things at moms or things of those sorts, and they've been doing this for X amount of months or X amount of years, you can't bring them all the way in and expect them to be like, Mommy, I will never curse at you anymore, and I won't throw. Like, may dial it back a little bit on it, but like you finna be a bunch of bitches.
Yeah, but I mean, it takes time.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of time and effort that a lot of people don't want to put in. And I always tell parents, it's gonna get worse. You know, these kids are gonna, you know, throw these tantrums as hard as they can just to see when you're gonna break.
Yeah.
And once you break, it's done, right? And even if it does, you know, the problem behavior goes away for a little bit, a couple months later, they're gonna try you.
Yeah, for real.
And they want to see if was this real permanent change that you had going on?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't keep it up, it's done. I'll see parents come in the office, they'll use whatever technique and strategy. Things are great.
Mm-hmm.
2 months later, they backslide. And they come to me like, oh, what do I do? I was like, you know what to do. You were doing it successfully.
You had the tools right there.
Use it. But, I mean, it's just that simple sometimes.
It's just about maintaining the boundaries that we're trying to set. Because a lot of the times, the boundaries aren't there. They're too loose or they're too firm.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to reconstructing the boundaries that we kind of put up, we don't know how to maintain them.
Yeah.
And when we're trying to maintain them, we over-enforce the boundaries, right? We over-enforce the boundaries, so to say, to where the child is not only rebelling, but they are like gone.
Yeah.
Right?
No, they're done.
One of the things that I also see when it comes to like parents and clients is that parents and children is parents having to accept that their child is gone. Right? Like I released a homeless patient like 2-3 days ago, and this individual's 19, and obviously within the system, once you hit 18, you can say and do what you want. You know, I don't think that's smart, but hey, you can say do what you want once you hit 19. And you know, this child wanted to discharge homeless, and obviously everybody knew she's just finna go do some extra drugs. The mom knew that, and it surprised me that it was harder for me to tell the mom that, hey, we have to let your daughter discharge homeless, than it seemed like the mom accepted it, because she was just like, all right, she's gone, it is what it is. But how, as a parent, do you kind of get to that place to where, I don't want to say you accept that, but you come to terms with it, that your son or your daughter is just like gone?
I mean, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a parent, I hope I don't ever experience that when I have kids. But I think we can take that into like just general relationships. You know, anybody that you care about, when you see them going that certain way, you can fight as much as you want. You can try to put as many like protective factors out there to keep them safe. But if they're not invested, it's kind of hard, right? Like I was watching a documentary. I think it was, what was the British lady who passed away, Amy Winehouse, right? And she had some great friends that were trying to help her, but she wasn't with it. And that was just unfortunately that she passed away on that thing. And it's kind of hard, and everybody's gonna take it however they wish. They're gonna either be super engaged, I'm the there when you need me sort of person, or just don't bring that BS around my area.
Yeah. It's a thin line between it. It's a thin line between it all, and once it's gone, it's gone. A lot of the times we have to get to a place that we just have to accept it, especially when it comes to parents. But you know, be open when it comes back, because your child is, if it's not too late, they're always going to come back, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of parents, from what I see, like, although parents are huge, make huge impacts in their child's life, they're not the only, contributing factor out there, right? Community, friends, media, all that sort of stuff. And I just want parents to feel confident that what they did was good.
Yeah.
Right? And I think if some parents can come to that truth, it'll help out in some of those situations.
Like you said earlier, you did the best you could with the information that you knew at that time.
Right.
But then you got the kids who are like, nah, you should do this and that and this and that and this and that. And when your kid is constantly coming at you and telling you that you was a terrible parent, things of those sorts. Okay, on one end you probably could have done differently, but on the other end you didn't know what you could do differently at that time. So it goes back into what you're saying. Just have a little bit more forgiveness within yourself, you know, in terms of what type of parent you are, because like you said, there's no manual to this shit. There's no like how to be a parent. I mean, there are like ways and tips and stuff like that, but that's only working from that and from the author's perspective.
Yeah,
right?
not like I tell parents all the time. I was like, this practice that we using, it wasn't made for us.
No.
When I say us, I mean black and brown people.
Yeah.
I was like, this study was created on some white kids somewhere, and we're gonna have to work to find how this works in your household and with your culture, and just call it a day after that.
Yeah.
So
it's like the one, and this is the one thing in therapy is what I've realized is there is never going to be one answer to anything.
No.
And the answer that you have for Jimmy damn show, it's not going to work for James, you know.
No.
And it's about, just like you said, just being open to all of the things that are happening, because the system that we're in is not created for us. But let's be open to some of the things so we can figure out how to function within it.
Exactly. Because, I mean, you'll see these parents in there, and their number one tool was, like, corporal punishment.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, you said what? Backhand,
Get on
right? But you're going to tear up your family doing that. You know, now you got DCFS there. You got to take classes. You got to do all these extra things. In your already packed schedule, you already stressed, right? How can we decrease some of that to keep you around and to build this positive relationship?
Exactly. I had a friend's grandparent told me, because obviously I got whooping, a lot of us got whoopings and things like that. So, and when I was having a conversation with her around, you know, whooping, and she's like, I would never stop it for my kids. And I was like, why? What's the line between it all? She was like, it becomes wrong if you're whooping your kids without communication. I was like, break it down to me. Like, okay, I'm gonna whoop my kid, then I'm gonna tell my kid why did this happen, why I don't like doing this, but why I feel as if I have to do it. Now, if I'm just beating your ass without giving you anything, now the kid is like, I just got beat up for nothing.
Exactly. And that's what I see that, although I'm a mandated reporter, is like, and again, the system isn't built for us, right? Because a lot of parents come in and that's all they knew, right? But really, it's a mixed thing. It's not gonna work for everybody.
No.
You know, we all know some adult right now got their ass whooped every day and still doing terrible things as an adult.
Yeah.
Right. I always look at it like, for a lot of adults, that physical punishment is really just an expression of that internal frustration.
Yeah.
Right. And so can you give that punishment after you calm down a bit? That way you make sure it's not excessive.
Exactly.
And like what the lady just said, communicate about what happened, right? If you walked in the street and you didn't look when the cars came, you want this whooping, or would you rather get hit by a car?
Exactly.
Right? We could give that lesson. But no, it's always interesting, and I love to hear about how people explain their use of physical punishment. Because some people are just like, yeah, that's a staple, right? I'm throwing shoes, I'm throwing everything, right? But it's crazy, and I think it's just a part of the culture. And like you said, the system is just so like hands off with their approach. You don't get to have those conversations to see what happened, right? I think we just had too many terrible cases of physical abuse where
all cases is bad.
Yeah, and it's really not, because like what the lady said, she was coming at it from a really good place, right? And then like you got that new Netflix documentary, and that kid, he was getting abused. And,
what documentary?
What was it? The case of like Gabriel something. It's like a 6-part thing where like this kid was getting abused terribly. he was being held in like a closet. DCFS came out a bunch of different times,
And they couldn't find it because he's in the closet.
Or I haven't watched the whole thing because I saw the news story a while ago, but the kid ended up dying.
Because of the abuse.
Yeah, and so all these social workers got in trouble for kind of not doing their job in this extreme situation. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's a cold system, but you know, a lot of the times, like I said, it's trust and communication, acceptance, and being open, and the dichotomy in which, you know, where you're at within, you know, the household or the corporation that we're trying to build within it, you know. So going into the question that, like I always like never write down, pops up in my head. This one popped up in my head probably 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
But when it comes to us, me and you, right? And this is for other individuals who are parents as well, but like myself and Alex, we don't have children. And use this question for you: if you do have kids, what are ways in which what are things about how your parents raised you that you are purposely trying to make sure that you are running away from, but you're kind of unconsciously doing it, if that question makes sense? So for example, I run away from being too strict, but instead of being too lenient, I'm like overly strict. Get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So one of the things for me was I have to make sure I'm not as aggressive with my kids. I can't give my kids all the whoopings that I've had. But at the same token, I believe in whoopings. So there's a thin line, like we were speaking about earlier. I believe there's a healthy level of fear, because it allows that individual to know what it can and can't do. Like, you're going to need to know that this stove is hot in order for you to not touch the stove.
Exactly.
However, I have to make sure I'm mindful of not going overboard. So one of the things that I can say my mother did not do was, after I got my ass beat, you know, she would never come back and be like, Willis, this is why. I would have to kind of learn on my own. And the whoopings weren't like crazy, but it was like, okay, Willis, you know you fucked up and you know you finna get beat up, you know. But as a parent, as a future parent, I need to make sure that I don't unconsciously dig deeper into that type of behavior while I'm trying to get away from it.
Damn. I've been thinking about this. I don't know, man. I think there were a lot of things that my mom did that I'm running towards, like cleaning. Like, that's the worst thing.
Cleaning?
I hated cleaning because it interrupted my sleep every damn Saturday morning. I legit woke up every morning, and like, my mom loves music. She blasts music. Just hear the OJs 8 o'clock in the morning. Right? And it just sucked, right? Because you sitting there, you think, oh, Saturday, I get to sleep in. Nah, that wasn't it.
It's cleanup time.
But now as an adult, like, that's my thing. Like, when I work with my nephews, if I see them clean something half-ass, I'm like, get back in there and do it. Like, you're a grown-ass adult. You know, clean them floorboards, you know, clean the shower correctly, vacuum and all that sort of stuff. I mean, that's one thing that I don't want to do with my kids, right? Mm-hmm. You know, clean, but like, it ain't an emergency to get it done at certain times. You know, my mom would come in and is like, hey, can you take out the trash? I'm like, all right, yeah. She's like, you gonna do it now? It's like, is the house gonna burn down if I don't do it right now? Like, it's okay, chill. It's not an emergency. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. I would definitely want to give some more thought to that. Yeah. Because that's actually a question that I ask the parents I work with when we're talking about parenting style and discipline. You know, what's the one thing that your parents did to you that you would never want to do to your child? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the parents, same thing. They just run towards it. Yeah. You know, and they're like, shit, I'm my mom, I'm my dad.
Because I don't know how to be a parent, and that's the only form of parenting that I've seen. So it's like we unconsciously go to it and just like, you know, so this parenting thing is a tricky thing, and this is why I probably don't have no kids right now, but it'll come. At some point.
No, that's a real fact.
It'll definitely come. Alex, man, good looking for coming through, my brother.
Man, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. And shouts out to my man Stevan for this black therapist meetup that we had.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday?
Friday.
Damn, seemed like we just said Friday. Man, that thing was dope, bro. Cause I heard one of the therapists in there say that, like, you know, this is easy for social workers like in the South to do because that's all there is, you know, because it's just a bunch of black social workers everywhere down there. But for me to see that many social workers or LPCCs or MFTs and you know, though that many black clinicians in one room, it made me wonder, like, why do we struggle so much with referring to other black professionals as if it's not out there, when it's just like, when he told me that there is like a 50-person wait list or something like that, and I was just like, what the fuck? Because I wasn't expecting that. You think it's so small, but in the grand scheme of things, it's so big.
Exactly. And I was looking back at it because it was supposed to be 60 people there, 50 people on the wait list. And there were a ton of people that we just didn't let know, right?
Yeah.
The event sold out within 24 hours.
I don't think there was any like real promotion to it.
Nah, it wasn't. It was really just Stevan sending an email out to the people he knew, and it kind of just spread from that way.
Yeah, because he just sent it to me. I signed up, and that was that.
Yeah.
So if it was promoted, it'd be a bigger stage.
It'd be ridiculous.
So it's just like, obviously, yeah, the black clinicians are out there, but I think it puts pressure on us as a clinician to make sure we network with each other a whole lot more, because now that we've seen it, there's no excuse, not to do it or anything like that. Yeah. You know, with it's a special little thing when it comes to the male side of it. But
hey, it's only 10 of us.
The first time I met Alex, he was like, "Yo, well, I appreciate meeting you because you're one of 5 or you're one of 6," and that statement has always remained true.
Right, and then on Friday it was 10 of us, right?
Yeah,
so now we can move that dial up a bit, but it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's but it was really good. It was really, really dope. It was very refreshing, very, very refreshing to see. Everybody was doing their own thing in their own fields, and you started to see how big it is because everybody in there wasn't a specific therapist. Yeah, you know, everybody wasn't a therapist, and there were some people in there who was like, "Nah, I'm not fucking with therapy."
Yeah,
you know, and that's okay. But just the fact that we are in the field way more than we think we are is a relief.
Yeah, and I think. And I know Stevan is going to help create this into a bigger thing, so it does become easier. You know, we're able to refer easier. We're able to link clients. Yeah. We're able to, just as black therapists, like what we were talking about earlier, look into other ways to use our clinical skills and our background to do different types of businesses.
For real. And
get things done.
For real. Because there's a lot of people in there that was doing a lot of good stuff, and everybody's doing it their own little way. So. Yeah. Appreciate it, man. But like I said, man, good looking for coming through, my brother.
Man, appreciate the opportunity.
Man, I'm going to have you on again, like really soon.
Okay.
I got some other things that I want to speak to you about.
Oh, Lord. Right.
Nah, it ain't nothing crazy. You know. But to all those individuals who are listening and tuning in, good looking. If you listen to this today, tomorrow, next year, next month, if you listen to this next lifetime, you know, when you're chilling with good old spiritual individual next to you, hey, good looking to you too, man. But as always, understand, ain't no wealth without your mental health. So please stay blessed. Take care of yourself. Be great, y'all. Peace.